begin here. Before I start, we have a couple of quick announcements. One is just to let everybody know that when you're ready to leave the parking garage, just put your ticket in the machine, and then you're free to go. So you don't have to do anything else. Just put the ticket in, and you're set. No other validation. Parking is free, just in case you didn't know. Okay. Also, first I'd like to raise a little money by auctioning off this beautiful lot. Or maybe not. Okay, well, moving right along. Roy, you're supposed to be up here, you know. Well, okay. All right. We got a ball player that's trying to hide. Well, good afternoon, and...
Judy's waving.
I'm sorry?
Can you speak any louder? People can't hear you back
Oh, wow, we got a lot of people back there.
a lot of people back here are interested in what you have to say.
Okay, sorry. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and this is a great turnout, and I'm sorry we didn't have a little more room here, so thank you for everybody in the back there. And this is, of course, the reception from Asahi the Zebras for the exhibit and the book. And just to let you know, the exhibit is sponsored by the California Room of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library here. And my thanks go to Bob Johnson of the California Room, lead librarian, and to Danelle Moon and her staff of San Jose State University Special Collections. Thank you, Danelle. Also, a big thank you to Lorraine Oback, who's the library's marketing and communications director. If any of you saw the great articles in Chick, heck, glad you could make it. Oh, that's great. If you saw the articles in the Chronicle or Mercury or Nichibei or wherever, she's responsible for getting the word out. So I don't think she's here today, but my thanks go out to her for her tremendous efforts. Also to my friend Lynn Harris, who's in the back corner here with the baseball cap. Lynn did all kinds of things. He was supporting me every day, and he told me this book was gonna happen, and he was right. And he did the work on the scorebooks from the Japan tour, deciphering them. They gave us an entire chapter that we thought was not going to exist. And he also helped me put up the exhibit. About 3.5 hours of work between the two of us. And what else did he do? Oh, he helped me set up all these chairs yesterday. Thank you, Lynn. So I'd like to now introduce our first speaker for today's program. Having played for Mayhew Athletic Club in the early 1950s, he moved to San Jose in 1957, and he joined the Zebras and soon became not only player but manager of the team. And he's now serving as a volunteer and a member of the board of directors for the Japanese American Museum of San Jose. So please welcome Roy Matsuzaki.
Thank you for the welcome and greetings to all of you, former baseball players and guests. I first met Ralph Pearce and Steve Fujita. You know, they came over to Jams and they interviewed me. They wanted to ask me about baseball. I could talk baseball morning, noon, and night. And anyway, they talked to me, and then later I joined Jams. Japanese American Museum is a non-profit organization dedicated to collect, preserve the culture of the history of Japanese American in Santa Clara Valley. Ralph's book helped us accomplish our mission. Since baseball was an important pastime of our community and the history of Japanese Americans, therefore, Jams are very happy to support Ralph's work. Okay, I'm quite honored to be here with former baseball players. I played against some of them. And some of them played for me. I noticed in the crowd there's only one player, I think, that played for me. But anyway, I first played organized baseball in the Sacramento Valley. That was with Elk Grove. Anybody know Elk Grove? Florence, Marysville, Lodi, Stockton, and Sacramento, and Mayhew, of course. And then later, I joined the Northern California League. That was consist of East Bay, San Francisco, Lodi, Stockton, East Bay, Fresno, and San Jose. You know, we always had a good team, but we could never beat the Zebras somehow. But I enjoyed coming to play the Zebras at Municipal Stadium. During the 1950s, you know, a lot of Niseis played baseball. I think every community had a team. Mount View, Santa Clara, I think Gilroy, Monterey, San Jose. Throughout this whole valley had boys come out and play baseball. Like even Sacramento Valley, we had a league. But in 1960, and somehow the guys don't come out to play anymore. Either they lack interest in baseball, or there was the money, or some problem. They would probably go play something else. Anyway, I watched and I played against many great players. I could name a few. In Florence, we had the Sakamoto brothers and the Karima brothers. In Placer, they had a great team. I think I can recall they won the Northern California Championship 2 years in a row. And the third year, they were trying to sew it up. And I think the Zebras beat them. But Bill here, Bill Nishimoto, is a former Placer ACL. He's here, and he can't even remember that. but he could remember his father managing in Tule Lake. They have this team called the Tule Lake Hillman. Rob, remember? They took championship. Remember Hugo Nishimoto? Yeah, his son's here. And he could remember his father umpiring in Tule Lake. And umpiring is not an easy game. I understand his father and the other ump almost would run out of town. Probably a missed call tonight. I joined the Zebras in 1957. I moved down here, and Shig Otani asked me to take over the team. I said, Shig, I don't know about managing, but Shig was a great help. You know, he helped me set up tournaments and coach, and even he even helped me recruit players. I think Shig recruited a lot of players for me. I don't know where he got this talent, but I understand he never played baseball, but whenever there were shorter players, I think he played right field, something like that. Shig went to Hart Mountain. I don't know if he played baseball, and I think he ended up in Chicago somewhere. But I'm surprised he's not a Chicago fan. You a Giants fan? Out our way. And you know, to get donation, that's pretty tough. In the old days, we used to pass the hat around, right? But to get donation, I had to go to merchants. And I'd like to name some of the merchants that contribute to us. It was NB Department Store, Clark Takeda, Dr. Tom Doi, and Jim Hashimoto. Plus, I won't leave out the Oreo brothers. The Oreo brothers always contribute money. When I ran out of baseball, he always bought me a dozen baseballs. Frank and John. Sorry, Frank and John's not here, but they're a great baseball player. Anyway, then later Chai Okazuki helped me coach the team. After his retirement, I think one of the games I needed a player. So I put Chai on right field. As I go along, one of the players, at least that was able to play for me, was sitting right here, Miles Yamamoto. Miles probably is one of the youngest players here. Anyway, him and I went to Fresno State. They were trying to recruit him, and I think he had an interview with the coach. I don't know what happened. We went there, and he said, well, I talked to the coach. Eventually, he came back to San Jose State, and he played for San Jose State, I think. He played as a walk-on for the first 2 years. He was saying something about his physical. But he finally passed the physical when he played in the senior year. So I'm very proud that I was able to coach and manage Miles. Every time I gave the Miles that hit signal, he would hit that home run. I mentioned, I used to play against very good players. I remember Fresno Assembly. I used to go watch the Zennemer brothers. Even the father was out there, teaching the boys how to play. But at that time in Fresno, Florin dominated the league. And I'm very proud that I was with Florin. And when we got to Jerome, Arkansas, I think the Florin team dominated again. They had players like Sakamoto brothers and the Freeman brothers. It seemed as though every community had brothers. The Oreo brothers, the Shimada brothers, and everybody had brothers that played baseball. So anyway, I'd like to conclude by saying that after playing for the Zebras, we changed our name to Tigers. I don't know why. I think this former coach that played for San Jose City College, Fred Silva, gave me a set of uniform. And so this is how we changed the name to Tigers.
Thank you, Roy. I'm going to need to update the book now. What was that? Can you go back? All righty. That takes care of that. Now, our next speaker is somewhat of a Renaissance man. He's an athlete, an actor, a filmmaker, an author. His name has become synonymous with Japanese-American baseball. I first met him when he brought his exhibit, Diamonds in the Rough, through San Jose back in 1996. And the exhibit, which began in Fresno, continued on across the country and across the sea to both the American and the Japanese Baseball Halls of Fame. Over the years, he's generously supported our efforts here in San Jose and has lent his name to the endorsement of my books and honors me by being here today. Ladies and gentlemen, the author of Through a Diamond, 100 Years of Japanese-American Baseball and director of the Nisei Baseball Research Project, Kari Yo Nakagawa.
Thank you, everybody. It's an incredible day. I saw the article in the Chronicle. I didn't get to see the hard copy, but I understand the San Jose Mercury News had an incredible article about the Asahi, and I just want to thank the San Jose Library for inviting me. Ralph Pearce, Roy, Kenny Wagaki. I remember him at the Resource Center when we were doing ribbon cuttings for our exhibit back in '96. Stephen Fujita, who also was helping to kind of glean some of the stories and to meet some of the great pioneers of the San Jose Asahi team. And of course, it's an honor to be in front of the San Jose Asahi members and the Zebras, and because without you today, none of us would be here. And I just really am appreciative that your stories have finally surfaced, and that was kind of my through line from the very beginning, is to make sure that this hidden legacy and this missing chapter in American baseball history would never be forgotten. So to see people like Ralph and family members, the Asahi players, the Zebra players, and their children and grandchildren, and probably great-grandchildren, is a tremendous honor for me. I kind of want to give you a little bit of background on myself. I've been very blessed to have uncles that competed with some of the legends of the game. My Uncle Johnny played, and my dad. I mean, they played with guys like Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, Tony Lazzeri, left field duel, Joe DiMaggio. And baseball's been in our family for 4 generations. My G-Chon played on a sugarcane plantation baseball team and immigrated to the Central Valley in 1886. So he was really one of the first immigrants to come to the mainland. And then he had 2 boys, my dad and my Uncle Johnny. My Uncle Johnny was kind of considered the Nisei Babe Ruth of the Fresno area. He was able to go to Japan on tours in 1924 and 1927. My dad in 1928 threw a 9-inning no-hitter against, he played for a Carruthers team and they beat Lodi, and he threw a no-hitter. I was an all-star shortstop and my son's a catcher. He's at UC Santa Barbara. So baseball, kind of like if you come from a family of race car drivers, attorneys, farmers, you know, it's kind of been a genetic thing for me. And like Ralph said, sometimes there were a lot of brothers on the teams, and I have to believe that it had to have been kind of a genealogy thing. You know, when I talk about some of these great ball players, I have a couple stories. Like, for instance, my Uncle Lefty, he played for a junior college in Santa Maria, and they were playing Pasadena Junior College, and Jackie Robinson was the shortstop. And I found this out much later. So I asked him, I said, well, Uncle Lefty, I said, you played against the Hall of Famer, Jackie Robinson, how'd you do? And he goes, well, Kerry, he goes, you know, he took me deep twice. And he wasn't happy about it. I mean, he was very proud. And I said, well, Uncle Lefty, I said, man, the Hall of Famer took you deep. I said, you shouldn't feel bad about Jackie Robinson, you know, giving up 2 home runs to him. And he goes, no, Kerry, he goes, you know, I feel pretty good about it now. I helped his career. A lot of confidence. I mean, I have so many stories I could share with you, but again, I just feel very blessed to be here today, and especially in front of the Asahi members and Zebras, and I thank them for their support. And I have a couple things that I wanted to share in terms of my journey. I know Ralph probably feels the same way. I've always felt, in fact, it's been a 10-year journey for me. I've always felt this anointment, like I was chosen. Maybe because my family members were part of the game and it's been in my family, but I'm sure with Ralph too, once he kind of felt this anointment, he was able to crusade for the Asahi and the community. And how it started for me 10 years ago is I had this idea to do this, well, it started with the exhibit. And because of my failure to do a documentary and get any grants, I kind of pursued getting artifacts and recruited some of my family members' stories and artifacts, and then it led to the exhibit. And in 1996, I had to really convince the Fresno Art Museum to try and give us a shot at showing showcasing some of the artifacts and the history. And so they gave us a chance, and then Rosalind Tonai of the National Japanese American Historical Society came down and felt it was very significant. And Gary Otake at the time was part of the organization. So it really blossomed from there. We were able to get it to Cooperstown, to the Japan Hall of Fame, the Arizona Hall of Fame, Portland Hall of Fame. So it's kind of traveled all around the world. Then the second part of this metaphorical kind of journey has been, I wanted to make the exhibit more multimedia, so we put together a documentary, and I was able to recruit my childhood hero, Mr. Miyagi, as some of you guys remember Pat Morita. And so he did my on-camera interviews, and he did the hosting for my documentary. And then it led to the book, which I consider kind of metaphorically third base. And now coming around the horn for the Grand Slam, we have a film that I'm producing called The American Pastime. And we're halfway there with funding, but we're trying to get this project that has so many great creative producers involved, but it's about baseball in the camps during World War II. Desmond Nakano wrote the script, and his father, maybe some of you that remember Go for Broke, the film in the 50s with Van Johnson. Well, his dad was Lane Nakano, the 442 ukulele soldier. And another part of this kind of tentacle is a curriculum guide. So out of Stanford University and Gary Mukai, who heads it, we have a curriculum guide and package that I'm very proud of, because we've already sold 100 packages, and that means 12,000 high school students year after year after year are going to learn about internment through the lens of baseball. So what the teachers do is they put in our documentary and watch it for 35 minutes, then reference chapter 6 of our book, and then go to the 52-page activity guide. And again, I'm hoping that maybe we can get it to every high school program in America, because as I crusade, 70% of America aren't even aware of internment. And so if we can teach high school kids about internment through the lens and prism of baseball, and that's one of the things that Stanford University really felt close to, was that men and women, boys and girls, can relate to baseball. And if we can teach them and hook them about baseball, but then unravel like an onion skin all the different layers of how internment happened to our culture, that way more generations will know about it, and hopefully it'll never happen again. The thing that I want to share with you today, since it's an San Jose Asahi Zebra Day, is some of my personal priceless magical moments with some of the players. Back in 1996, I noticed that Ralph had a little board that a lot of the players that participated in signed. And through the Japanese Culture and Community Center in Northern Cal, Paul Osaki and myself, we were able to co-chair a project to honor 49 pre-war ball players that played throughout the state. And I remember Jig Yamada was there with his grandson, and to see the founder of the Asahi standing about this high and his grandson that high, I'll never forget that. And to see the media and the responses, and Jig's telling me stories about how he was in a train in Japan, when the Asahi went to Japan, and as it hit the tunnel, all the soot from the train came into the windows, and how he could peg a guy out at second if he kind of wandered off the base too far. And I said, you mean you threw a guy out going from first to second? He goes, no. He goes, if they wandered off second, he goes, I threw him out from home plate. So it told me what an incredible arm that Jiggs must have had, to nail these guys. The ribbon cutting at the Resource Center, which was, I think, then JARC, to be able to see Jiggs and Henry Honda and Frank Shimada and Mr. Horio, I think, was there, and I forget some of the other Asahi members. To be able to ribbon cut for our exhibit in San Jose was a very proud moment for me. Another one was to be able to take some of the players in '99 to Cooperstown and to honor not only some of my family members and the mystical all-time all-star team, but to honor some of the players, the 18 players that went with us and their families. And I'll never forget seeing Lefty Honda, who made a tremendous effort to get there, and he wasn't feeling very well, but when we got to the museum, they wanted to get him a wheelchair, and as soon as the players hit the floor, there was about 5 different TV crews there, and I remember 2 of them were trying to interview Henry, and about that same time the wheelchair came, and so the nice courteous staff of Cooperstown said, well, Mr. Honda, here's your wheelchair. And he goes, no, I don't need that. So he gave these interviews just flawlessly, and it was real empowering. And then I listened to his interview, and he talked about how, he had that great potential to be a major league pitcher, and how the Dodgers were, really monitoring him. And then the war came, and then, of course, he had to go into camp. So that cut his major league career right there and then. And to hear Henry talk about, after one of the questions, what's it feel like, Mr. Honda? You're here at the Hall of Fame. You're representing the Asahis from San Jose, along with many other teammates from all over. What's it feel like to you to be able to do that? And for him to say that, to have no bitterness, he said that, hey, he goes, we know that your career was cut short. You could have probably been a great major leaguer. And he goes, well, I played baseball pre-war. I loved it then. I played in camp and kind of threw my arm out, and I still got a tryout after the war, and it kind of ended it there. But he goes, to come back to Cooperstown and to be recognized with my players and representing other players that couldn't be here, he goes, this is a very special moment for me, and it really was. And Elsie's here, his wife is here today, and she remembers, because if you were with us, Nona Jigs Yamada's granddaughter was with us. It was just very magical, and if you were there, it was just an amazing time. But again, I just want to thank you guys for inviting me to kind of share my thoughts. I got a couple shameless plugs that I want to point out too. Besides the curriculum guide, on September 17th, if you get a chance, Baseball as America opens at Cooperstown. It's the Cooperstown Traveling Exhibit, and it's going to open at the Oakland Museum. And on September 17th, I'm going to be able to speak with a panel with Buck O'Neill, who's 93 years old and played with Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth. And 3 of the artifacts from our exhibit travel with Baseball as America. It's been to every major league city practically in the nation for about 3 months at each venue. And it's going to be ending soon, so I hope you all get a chance to come to Oakland Museum on September 17th to meet Buck and to see the 3 artifacts. We have the original wooden home plate from Gila River, Arizona's detention camp. We have a San Fernando Ace uniform that represents 4 generations. And we have a picture of a Heart Mountain baseball team that's in its own icon case, as we call it. And so try and get out to that. Also at the Palace of Fine Arts, they're honoring our Nikkei kind of entertainment Hall of Famers. They're going to honor Pat Suzuki, George Takei, Mako, one other person besides my godfather, Pat Morita, and James Shigeta. So hopefully you can come out to see some of the greatest cinema. And I feel honored because I get to introduce, like I said, my godpapa Pat Morita, and from this journey, he was always kind of a hero of mine, because that's how I got into karate, and then I got my black belt because of Mr. Miyagi. And to see him sing the national anthem with the Giants, the Diamondbacks, the Dodgers, the Oakland A's, and to be able to, just recently, I showed parts of my documentary at the small farm town I grew up in called Fowler. It's only 2,000 people, but these Red Cats, there was the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class at a pep rally. And thinking that today's youth maybe would be bored with the history of Nikkei baseball and baseball in the camps, I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. And at the end of the documentary, Pat Morita sings the national anthem. And the whole freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior class stood up. And this was right after 9/11. And they all put their hands on their heart. And it's one of the most patriotic moments I had ever seen, after that situation. I told Pat this story. And of course he was very emotional as well. And one of the questions that the students asked was, is Mr. Morita, because he sings the national anthem, does he do it because they put him into one of the camps? And so I asked Pat that, because I told the student, I said, hey, you know what, I know that he loves singing it, and because of the patriotic nature of the song, I don't know why he sings it, but I'll ask him that. And so I asked Pat that recently, and he said, it's because I love this country, man. He goes, and has nothing to do with internment. He goes, I just love America, and that's what's part of this great spirit of baseball and this exhibit, and all of you who are kind of identical to it. I've always believed in synergy or synchronicity. Everyone, coincidence is too vague. I've had too many things and too many projects shut down on me, and another door opened, or another way the project was going, and then another door of opportunity opened up. So, I just feel very glad to be here in San Jose, and I thank you for having me. And again, for me, the magical part of this journey is to see families like yours, to see the players, and to have everyone learn and see every region blossom with exhibits in history. And that's why I'm very proud today to introduce the next speaker, Ralph Pearce, who I'm sure feels very much like myself, that this anointment, I know he's not in it for the money. because like I say, you know, it's I'm far and away from the richest, but in a lot of ways I'll put myself up with the wealthiest people in the world, and I'm right there with them, with the people I've been able to meet, the places I've been able to go to, you know, the pioneers that have inspired my life. You know, that's what it's all about for myself, and thank goodness my wife and my kids have been very understanding over the last 10 years during this journey. But I want to introduce Ralph, who is an artist, he's a musician, and today an author. He loves history, which is driven by his interest in the human experience. I'm a Sansei, he's a San Josean. He has great respect and appreciation for many diverse cultures of San Jose and this country and this world. In 1990, he was drawn to Japanese baseball and the history and experience of Americans playing in the teams. And it was this international interest that led him to the San Jose Asahi dynamic and the players. And he enjoys baseball, but more importantly than that is the values as a medium by which we can come to better know each other and understand ourselves. He began this project in 1993. He's pursued it for all these years as a labor of love, and I can relate to that. And he's a faithful, very faithful in preserving the history of this community and the group of ball players that used to just love to play the game for the love of the game on Sundays and to bring pride to their community. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce Ralph Pearce.
Well, thank you very much. When people ask me why I got involved in writing this book, and this is a question that occurs over and over again. Are you okay?
Just need a little water.
Okay, well, I hope she'll be okay. I think it's okay to proceed. When you know, I've been asked many times how or why I got involved in writing this book, and I usually outline the series of events that led to the gathering of oral histories and the research that followed. But I guess that answers more of how I wrote the book rather than why. Why is a little more difficult to answer. The why has something to do with fathers and sons, with brothers. It has to do with friends on warm Sunday afternoons. It has something to do with proud mothers and sisters and children running up and down grandstand steps. And it has something to do with the search for acceptance in a land that considers you and your family and your friends as outsiders. And it has something to do with my appreciation for all of these things. And this was a very easy book for me to write because I enjoyed every moment of it. And there were many exciting moments, like finding the connection between the Issei and the Nisei team, the discovery of the Japan tour of scorebooks, and finally determining the location of the old Asahi field, the discovery of the Tokyo Giants game ball, and pulling the first copy of the book out of the box and handing it to my son Michael, and being here with all of you today. I have so many people to thank, and I'd first like to thank those who are no longer with us. Chikinaga, and Sue Hinaga, Lefty Honda, Moon and Chio Ikeda, Dr. Tokyo Ishikawa, Joe Gio, Shig Shimada, Clark and Alice Takeda, Jiggs Yamada, and Francis Yumaji. Others who helped but were unable to attend today include George Hinaga, Jerry Hinaga, Harry and Masaji Kanemoto, Tom Ogigaki, Frank Shiraki, and Harry and Ed Yoshioka. Very special thank you to Carolyn Watanabe, who wrote a piece and made generous donations to the museum on behalf of her late husband, former San Jose Royals manager Fred Watanabe. I send my thanks to Yoichi Nagata in Japan, who told me it was up to me to write the story, and then continued his encouragement and assistance over the course of many years. To my publisher, Japanese American Museum of San Jose, to Joe Yasutake, Roy Matsuzaki, Ken Iwagaki, and Steve Fujita of the committee that considered and recommended my proposal. I owe Steve more thanks than it's really possible to express. But he did say one time that all I owed him was half a dozen mochi. So I guess we're even now. Let's see. I'd also like to thank Jeff Hayamizu. I don't know if Jeff is in the crowd today, but Jeff introduced me to his grandfather, Joe Gio, and Joe was very supportive of the project from the beginning. My editor, Bonnie Montgomery, who did so much to improve the book's content and presentation. To Kathleen Fortune for her beautiful cover and interior book design. To the generosity of Kenji Taguma and the staff of the Nichibei Times. Jim, thank you. The Nichibei Times were very supportive of this project, and I would come up and they'd just make me at home, you know, just made me feel like I was right at home, and I'd tear right in there and I'd be there all day, and they never kicked me out. I was grateful. I was welcome in their break room, and
brought us donuts.
I just saw it as a shameless bribe. But thank you. And to the Sirasu Academy for their very generous support of this project. And to retired Judge Wayne Kanemoto for sharing his collection of photographs. And my dear friend June Hayashi for her ongoing encouragement and assistance. And to my wife Emily and my son Michael. Don't know where they are. I know they're hiding. Who allowed me to pursue this project. And to each and every one of you who are here today, thank you. So, I started a while back. I was kind of inspired by a poem that I had read called Casey at the Bat. And that's a pretty popular poem. I hope most of you are familiar with it, where the mighty Casey of Mudville, he's expected to win the game, and he just utterly fails. But I was inspired to write a poem about actual events that occurred on March 27, 1935. And this was a day that most of the Asahi that I interviewed recalled. And this is it's about a game against the Tokyo Giants in 1935. and it's entitled The Ballad of the Asahi Nine. The Asahi fans were glum that day as they watched their home team's plight on the short end of 2-1 in the bottom of the ninth. Japan had sent their very best. Tokyo's giants seemed to be, with their Russian pitcher Starfin, 3 outs from victory. But Miyamoto hit one clean to left, to the astonishment of all, and Onitsuka, with a careful eye, earned a base on balls. Now Starfin was getting worried and deciding to get bolder, let go a wicked fastball, hitting Ikeda on the shoulder. So Ikeda trotted down to first, Onitsuka was safe at second, Miyamoto's tying run on third, where the gleam of home plate beckoned. Kanemoto missed his bunt 3 times. That Starfin was a terror, but the catcher dropped the final strike, and Miyamoto scored on the error. Now strong Shiraki came to bat with only 1 away. Onitsuka's winning run on third, and the crowd began to pray. Shiraki swung, and swung, and swung. He was very seldom routed. Why did you swing? Why did you miss? Were the nicer things they shouted. There was one last chance, though slim, to end the stalemate. With Speedy Onitsuka still on third, Les Hinaga approached the plate. 1 out to go and their pitcher up, the crowd had settled down. They saw only the extra inning when the Tokyo boys had come around. The locals held their breath as Starfin blazed one across the rubber. Russell watched unmoving, waiting for another. Starfin fired again, and Russ waited for the call. Umpire Bowen straightened up, calling it a ball. The stands were completely silent now, as 1,000 people sat. It was just too much to hope for, they thought, as Russell choked the bat. The tireless Starfin stared towards the plate, then unleashed from his towering height a scorching fastball trailing smoke, and Russell swung with all his might. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. They say it's all the same. So if you lose, well, don't be sad, for it's how you play the game. But there was joy that day in San Jose. The news spread throughout the state. Hinaga drove the ball past second, and Onitsuka crossed the plate. We have Adrian Onitsuka right here. Good job, Adrian. Well, at this time, we would like to, myself and Jams, would like to present the players with copies of the book. And I'm going to get Steve Fujita over here, the man who wrote the foreword of the book, by the way, to give me a hand in passing these out. And after that, we're going to get some books to family members who are representing players who are not able to be here. So we'd like to give first book. We're going to do this alphabetically, and first book goes to Chi or Chai Akazuki. She's not only a great baseball player, but he actually likes basketball better, he said. He played on both the Zebras basketball and baseball team in camp and after the war. And our next player is Jack Fujino. And Jack was a great catcher for the Asahi. And next we have Ralph Porio. And Ralph. You'll come to learn more about Ralph when you read the book, but he sold tickets out at the Asahi games, and he hung the numbers up on the scoreboard. And then he later played with the Zebras in San Jose. And next to Ralph is his brother, Sumito Horio. Sumito was a great third baseman, and he played as a kind of a utility substitute for the Asahi. But it's funny, he says he's just a substitute, but every single picture he seems to be in. He also played with Zebras after the war. And then we have Ernie Inoue, great pitcher. Ernie was a great pitcher with the Zebras in camp and also with the Zebras afterwards. And then we have Roy Matsuzaki. And you guys know enough about Roy. And next we have Roy Murotsune. And Roy was a player for the post-war Asahi Cardinals, who they got what they did was they borrowed the old Asahi uniforms after the war, but they couldn't be the Asahi, so they called themselves the Asahi Cardinals. And then eventually when they had their own uniforms made up, it just said Cardinals on there, but they were still called the Asahi Cardinals. And they went from about 1948 to 1952, something like that. Next player is Shigo Tani. And Shig was the manager for the Zebras in the 1950s, and did a great job. He had a great team. And Adrian Yamamoto. And Adrian, before the war, went by the name of Nitska. So when I'm talking about a Nitska on third base, that's Adrian Yamamoto. And his son, Miles Yamamoto. Miles played on the, once the team name, the Zebras changed to San Jose Nisei Tigers, and Miles played on that team right towards the end there, I think. And that's it for that. So, again, why don't you give all the players who are here today.
Excuse me, just 1 second. In my little presentation, I omitted, I wanted to give this to the jam or to the exhibit here, 2 special pictures that were donated from James Kogura, who I think is a San Jose resident, and Tetsu Furukawa. But this is the Heart Mountain Relocation All-Star Team and the Gila River All-Stars that would travel back and forth to play each other. And I thought it was ironic that here were 2 camp teams that can travel thousands of miles away to keep playing each other. But on the the Heart Mountain team, the coach was Russell Hinaga, of the famous Hinaga family, and the brothers, and of course Alice, who was a great Women's Night League All-Star. And I noticed right here, Chi or Chai, T-Bone Akizuki is right here too on this team. And I always wondered where they got their nicknames. You know, some regions had them, some didn't, but San Jose sure had an overload. There was Moon Ikeda, T-Bone Akizuki, and the list goes on. I know Moon Karima, and I asked him how did he get the moon, because I thought maybe he pitched that little oval. He goes, no, my dad used to make moonshine. I don't know where Moon Karima got his. I'd like to find out. But anyway, I just want to present this, and it's great because it gives the scores, the players, how many games they played. And so I want to hand this off to Ralph so he can hand it to the museum.
Thank you very much, Gary. Before we go on, I just want to say this book is for you guys, and I'm very grateful you guys were able to make it here today. And ultimately, you're the guys I was doing this book for. And I'm sorry that there weren't more of you that could be here from when we started the project, but I guess that's just kind of how it goes. But anyway, thank you guys. Thank you. We should have some, I understand we have some family members of players who are no longer with us, and so we'd like to present a book to those family members on behalf of the player that they might represent here today. So do we have anyone here for Harry Hashimoto? Hi. Is Helen? Helen Tsui? Harry played on the Asahi team way back in the very early 20s. And anybody representing Russell Hinaga here? Russell Hinaga is one of my heroes. And Russell started with the team in 1918 with Jigs Yamada, and he just went forever. And after he retired, he kept on going. You don't always see him in the pictures. He was always somewhere, part of the team doing something. He just loved baseball. It was in his blood, and he was an amazing guy. I'm sorry I never had the opportunity to meet him, but anyway, thank you. Anyone for Lefty Honda? Else beyond here. Mooney Keda. Here we go, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Moon was the great center fielder who pulled the stuffing out of his glove. Even though it would be more painful to catch, he knew he had it that way. And he was very proud of that glove, and he'd tell you he never dropped the ball. I believe him. And then anybody for Dr. Tokio Ishikawa? His son, Bob. Dr. Ishikawa was, when we met, he would encourage me and give me all kinds of little encouragements and help, and was one of our interviewees who helped bring the story alive from the very old days in the early 20s when he would go out and watch the team. Joe Gio. Ah, Mary. Good to see you today. Where's Jeff? Where's your grandson?
Next day.
Hey, Jeff! Jeff is the guy who got this whole thing started here by introducing me to his grandfather way back. Harry Okita. Anyone here for Harry Okita? Okay, and so we have Grace back here. Grace Kogura, and we have Tetsuko.
No, granddaughter and great-granddaughter.
Oh, great. Glad to have you here today. Harry was one of the few players that we were able to identify on this original photo here. He's a player in the bottom right-hand corner. And Harry was the one who went out and encouraged Jigs Yamada to restart the team in 1918. And so that was very glad to have that little bit of the story of the very beginnings of the Asahi, which was very difficult to get much information about. Duke Serra, Morio Serra. Do we have anybody? Dr. Kinji Serra. Dr. Serra, I'm glad you could make it out here today. And your father was a heck of a baseball player, and in fact, he held the record for the longest hit out at the original Asahi Diamond on the corner of 6th and Jackson. I hope to talk to you later. And anyone here for Earl Tambara?
I'm glad you could put the scorebooks to good use.
Oh, we did. Thanks to Tom. Tom had his uncle's scorebooks and got all that information to us. And with Lynn Harris's help, the scorebooks brought the whole Japan tour alive and created a whole chapter of the book that we would not have had otherwise. So we're very grateful to you, Tom, for getting that to us.
It was a pleasure to do that.
And anyone for Jim Uemura? Jim Uemura, we're looking for Bruce, his son, who's going to try and make it up from Los Angeles. Maybe not. Okay. And finally, for Fred Watanabe. Where are we? Here we are, right here. Fred was the manager of the San Jose Royals back, it was 1980, was it 8 or 89? Yeah, around 89 through the entire time, through the rest of the time, 1998, I think. I think was the last year of the San Jose Royals. And he was manager of that team, and his son played on the team. And you can read more about that towards the end of the book. Thank you, Kellen. Also, we have, last but not least, Jigs Yamada. Family for Jigs Yamada. Jigs was an amazing guy, as you heard Carrie talk about Jigs earlier. Jigs was the first one I interviewed back in 1993. They said he was 94 years old, and I thought I better get out there. But I needn't have worried because he was around for a long time afterwards. But boy, it was just it was amazing. Yes?
You forgot George Yamaoka, the general.
I didn't forget him. I thought George was not going to be here.
This is his sister.
Okay, we didn't know anyone was coming. Okay, George Yamaoka. That's right. George was referred to as the general. He started playing in 1938, as I understand, with the Asahi A team. And he was a tremendous catcher. Henry Honda used to talk about him. He used to say that George was a slave driver, and he would really keep me in line. He was a great player. And also on Jigs Yamada, his memory was incredible, and he was telling me things, kind of details that you know, I've already forgotten about my life and half his age. You know, I don't know how he did it, but he was just amazing. And to be able to have him and his stories gave a tremendous amount to the book. That without it, it wouldn't have been nearly what it is. So a lot of gratitude to Jigs and his wonderful stories. Is there anybody else that we might have forgotten? Anyone else here today? Okay. Well, I think at this point then, I think we'll retire to the rooftop terrace just across out the double doors. Chief? Frank? Yeah, Frank Shiraki. I called him last night, and he hurt his foot, and he not able to make it. I told him, I'll do anything to get you here. He said, thanks, but he just couldn't do it. Yeah. And so I definitely missed Frank here today. Frank was the catcher for the Asahi during that Tokyo Giants game. The guy who didn't get a hit that day, but he usually did pretty well. So, okay. So I think at this point.